So I realize that this is not a scripture passage that we would typically associate with the Advent season, necessarily. You know, nothing says Merry Christmas like being anxious about the second coming of Christ, right? So I get that. But if we can, at least for our purposes today, kind of set those parts aside, what we have really is a passage of Scripture that calls us to be aware. A passage of Scripture that invites us or encourages us, not even that, demands for us to pay attention. As I was mentioning in the children's sermon, that's something that I'm finding I'm doing a lot of here lately with Sydney. She's at a point where she has this tendency to look in every direction possible except the one she's walking in. You know, sideways, up, down, but never where she's going. Which, as you can imagine, has led to collisions with walls and door jambs and furniture and occasional falls down the steps or off the curb. And so I'm always finding myself saying, Sydney, watch where you're going. Sydney, pay attention, right? And that's just a good, solid life lesson, right? Pay attention. Be aware of what you're doing, why you're doing it, right? Because we all know from experience that when we're not paying attention to the degree that we should, when we're not as aware of what we're doing or why we're doing it as we should be, that oftentimes in those moments, we end up doing harm. Harm to ourselves and harm to others. So paying attention, being aware, is important. I want us to stop for a second. Just think about different situations, stories, instances that you've experienced or that you've heard about where bad things have happened. And the trigger for those bad things was because someone wasn't paying attention. Someone wasn't being as aware as they should be. Just let's stop for a second and think about those types of situations. Car accidents. Not always, but oftentimes happen because someone wasn't paying attention. Surgical procedures that go awry, right? Pharmacies where a prescription is filled with the wrong medicine. Someone just wasn't paying attention. House fires, right? Sometimes a result of someone just not being as aware as they should be or might have been. 2 trains that collide because the conductor was texting instead of paying attention to where the train was going. Paying attention and being aware is more than just a cute life lesson for a toddler. It's a life lesson for all of us. I know a lot, and I've worked with a lot of teens who went down very self-destructive paths. Not always, but often, because no one in their life of stories where children disappear, abducted, because someone wasn't paying attention. Drownings in backyard swimming pools because someone turned away for a minute and wasn't watching. People that embezzle funds from organizations and businesses because they know no one's watching, and they take advantage of that fact. And some of the most heartbreaking, haunting words that I hear and have heard over the years that I've been a pastor have been things like, if I had only paid more attention, if I had only not been so consumed by work, if I'd only been paying more attention, maybe I would have noticed that he had started taking drugs. Maybe if I had paid more attention, I would have noticed earlier that she was depressed. Or, I knew this was wrong. I knew this choice was the wrong choice, a choice that I shouldn't have made, but I didn't pay attention, and I did it anyway. And now I have to deal with the consequences of that choice. Paying attention and being aware matters tremendously. And it doesn't matter why we sometimes are unable or unwilling to pay attention. Sometimes it's just simply because we're busy. We've got too many distractions, too many things going on, and we just don't pay attention because there's just too much noise, too much busyness, right? Sometimes we don't pay attention simply because we don't want to. We don't want to see what's right in front of our face because it's easier and more convenient and more comfortable if we pretend it's not there. And so we choose to ignore it for our own self-serving reasons. We choose not to pay attention. Doesn't matter why we do it. But that result, that outcome, the consequence of that is almost always harmful. To us, to others, in a wide